LSU's schedule in 2025 will be very similar to the 2024 schedule. Of course, in the SEC, the home and away just flipped. And then in the non-conference, they do have another big non-conference game. So remember last year they played USC. This year they will travel to Clemson. So in the non-conference, they'll play Clemson on the road. They'll play Louisiana Tech, Southeastern Louisiana, and Western Kentucky. Again, a very similar non-conference this year. I would say this Clemson game, though, is going to be tougher than the USC game from last year. I think Clemson's going to be a better team. And then obviously playing a true road game versus a neutral site game. That's going to be a really tough matchup. And really, that might be, besides Ohio State and Texas, that might be the game that I'm most excited for in the non-conference, at least there in week 1. So that's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see how that one plays out. Let's look at who they play home and away. So in the SEC this year, they'll play Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Arkansas at home. Good getting those games at home because really Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M, those are all going to be very good teams, and you want to play them at home. And we all know how tough it is to beat LSU at LSU. So I think that bodes well for them. I think they have, I think you'd rather have these games at home than what they had last year, because you look at who they play on the road. It's Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Ole Miss, maybe they take a bit of a step back this year, so that's a game you might could win on the road. Vanderbilt, I know Vanderbilt was a surprise team, but still LSU's a much better team. They should be able to take care of business in that game. Alabama, I know it's Alabama, but this is not the same Alabama we have seen in, the Nick Saban era is over. I don't know how good Alabama's going to really be. And then Oklahoma, Oklahoma's going to be, I think, improved, but still, that's a game LSU might be able to win. So all 4 of these road games will be tough for sure, but they're winnable games for LSU. And then, you do get some big games at home, Florida, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. So I would say it's probably a pretty even trade, but I think I'd rather have those 3 games at home this year, and Arkansas as well, a team that can sometimes give LSU some trouble. So that's the home and away. Let's go game by game. They'll start off with that road game at Clemson on August 30th. Then they'll play Louisiana Tech on September 6th. And then it's Florida at home September 13th. So a very early season game there. It seems like they used to play a little bit earlier in the year, and then more recently they played later in the year. I can't remember exactly, but that'll be a huge game. Huge game. The winner of that game is going to have a real shot to make a run in the SEC. The loser, I think it's going to be tough for them when you look at the rest of the schedules for these 2 teams. They got Southeastern Louisiana on September 20th, and then it's a road game at Ole Miss on September 27th. So when they go into that first bye week, they will have already played Clemson and Ole Miss on the road, and then also would have had that big game against Florida. So 3 big games in their first 5, and that's really going to set the tone for the season. You lose a couple of those, it's going to be really, really tough when you look at the rest of the schedule. So I think they need to at least get off to a 4-1 start to keep themselves with a good chance to maybe make a run in the SEC and, of course, in the college football playoff. So they'll play South Carolina on October 11th at home. That's going to be a big game. That was a great game last year. Can't wait to see what happens this year. But again, I would not bet against LSU playing at home most games. They usually find a way to win those games. Vandy on the road on October 18th, then back home for Texas A&M October 25th. So only 3 games here in between the bye weeks, and 2 of them are at home. So you like LSU's chances to maybe win all 3 of those games, and then you look at the rest of that schedule. It's manageable. They're going to have some tough road games in here, but it's manageable. You've got Alabama on November 8th. That'll be on the road, so obviously that's going to be a tough one. Arkansas on the 15th. Then it's Western Kentucky on November 22nd. And they close things out with a road game at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, again, is a team that I expect to be improved this year. Arkansas, not too sure. Alabama, not too sure if they're going to go up or down or be about the same. But yeah, I really think those first 5 games, and 3 of those first 5 games, Clemson, Florida, Ole Miss, that's going to really determine the season. They don't have any really tough back-to-backs at all, because even those 3 games, Clemson, Florida, Ole Miss, they're separated with an easier game in between, and then they have the bye week after. So the toughest probably 3-game stretch is South Carolina, Vandy, and Texas A&M, and again, 2 of those games at home. Vanderbilt, one of the weaker teams in the SEC, is on the road, but still, I really like the way this schedule sets up in terms of the timing of the games if LSU is ready to go early in the season. Now, that's going to be the challenge. because if this team is one of those teams that has to get better as the season goes along, the season could be over by the time they get to October with 3 really tough games in September. So how does this stack up with the other teams in the SEC? Well, you look at their opponents for this year, their winning percentages from last season. The winning percentage from all the teams that they play in the SEC, 32-32 is the record last year, a 50% win percentage. So right there in the middle of the pack. It's a tough schedule, but it's not the toughest. So it's kind of in the middle. Anytime you play in the SEC, you're gonna have a tough schedule, and then you add in a road game with Clemson. So that does make this schedule overall for LSU pretty tough in 2025.